The doctor told my sons I might not live until morning, and they told him they couldn't leave a party. Those are the words still running in my head as I lay here in this white, humming room with wires stuck to my chest, a drip in my arm, and a machine doing half the work my heart can't. It's after 2 a.m. at Eastridge Memorial, and I'm alone. Not resting, not healing, just awake. Awake and aware, in a way I have not been in years. And before I tell you the whole story, let me say this. My name is Evelyn Brooks. I am a 67-year-old black woman, a mother of 2 grown men, and after tonight, I am done pretending they love me. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. So does mine. The nurse keeps telling me not to get upset. That's funny to me. "Miss Brooks, you need to stay calm," she whispers, trying to soften her voice so I'll listen. Her name is Kiana. She's young, maybe 28, pretty brown skin, warm eyes, soft hands. She has checked on me more in the last 5 hours than my own blood has in the last 5 years. She adjusts the blanket around my shoulders like I'm something fragile. I don't remember the last time one of my sons touched me that way. I honestly don't. Calm. I don't even think they know what happened. I think they still think I'm being dramatic. That's the word they love now. Dramatic. They started using it instead of "mom's in trouble." It makes them feel better. Makes them feel like they're not heartless, just busy. The doctor already told me what happened in the ambulance. He said my heart stopped. Not slowed. Not got a little funny. Stopped. 3 times. He said I was gone for 4 full minutes on that second stop. I said, "Gone where?" He looked me dead in my face and said, "Ms. Brooks, I don't usually put it like this, but you died." 4 minutes I was not on this earth. 4 minutes where my body had already decided it was done. 4 minutes where I was nothing but a story on a form, and my sons said they couldn't leave a room full of people holding champagne flutes and tiny crab cakes. "We can't just walk out on our guests," is what my oldest son Malcolm told the doctor over the phone, according to what the doctor later repeated to me. My wife's promotion dinner has been on the calendar for weeks. My mom is strong. She'll be fine till morning. Call me if anything changes. Call me if anything changes. Like what, baby? Like funeral arrangements? My other son, Terrence, didn't do better. He said, "Can this wait? Chanel has all her family here. We can't dip right now. It would be disrespectful." They always say that, you know. It would be disrespectful. Disrespectful to leave a dinner, disrespectful to end a toast, disrespectful to make a scene. But letting your mother die alone? That one doesn't seem to count for disrespect. And now here I am, half lit by this little blue monitor glow, pain pushing through my chest like somebody pressing a brick down on me, listening to the hallway echo, thinking about the last 40-plus years I gave those boys with both hands and no backup. I wish I could say I was surprised. I wish I could tell you this came out of nowhere, that they'd always been loving and then suddenly this. But it's not like that. Hurt like this don't start at the hospital. It starts slow in kitchens and driveways and holidays you weren't really invited to. Let me take you back. I had Malcolm at 23 and Terrence at 31. 2 sons, 2 miracles, I used to say. One loud and needy, one quiet and watching. Their daddy left when Terrence was 6, said he needed room to breathe. I said, "You ain't paying the gas bill, seems like you already breathing just fine." He walked anyway. I never saw a dime after that, not for school clothes, not for food, not for the inhaler Terrence needed when his little chest used to get tight in the middle of the night. I didn't have time to cry back then. I had to work. I worked mornings at the cafeteria at the high school. Lunch ladies eat last and smile through it. I worked nights cleaning offices downtown. Then I did mending and alterations for folks' suits and dresses at the kitchen table, with my reading glasses on and my back screaming, just so Malcolm could get his basketball camp fee and Terrence could go on that 7th grade trip to D.C. and not feel like the poor one. You know how black mamas do. We don't buy ourselves new shoes unless the old ones are truly crying out for mercy. We don't sit, we don't sleep. We just say, "Baby, don't you worry about it, Mama got you," and we figure out the rest behind closed doors. I figured it out for decades. Back then, my boys loved me, or at least that's how I remember it. Malcolm was clingy. He'd follow me from room to room, always wanting to show me something, always asking, "Ma, you watching?" He used to rub his face against my arm while I was folding laundry like a cat, and I'd pretend to fuss, "Get off me, boy, you hot," just so he'd giggle. Terrence wasn't clingy, but when he did come close, he'd come all the way in, head on my lap, hand holding my wrist like I was his anchor. He was the one that, when he was scared in a storm, didn't say nothing, just climbed into my bed and pressed his forehead between my shoulder blades and breathed me in like I was medicine. That kind of love feels like God. You think that kind of love is forever. You don't think it can run out, dry up, roll away. You don't think it can be outvoted by shrimp skewers in a playlist. The first time I felt it shift, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. Malcolm brought Brianna home. That was 10 years ago. She smiled with all her teeth, and she smelled like something expensive, and she looked me up and down like she was measuring curtain fabric. "Hi, Ms. Brooks," she said, sweet as chocolate on the outside. But the middle part didn't taste like sugar at all. "Malcolm's told me so much about you. Your house is cozy cozy. That's what people say when they mean small, old, not good enough. That Thanksgiving I cooked for 2 days because that's what Thanksgiving is supposed to mean in our family. Dressing from scratch, greens with smoked turkey wings, yams, macaroni baked till the top crisped, peach cobbler with the sugar bubbling up around the crust. Brianna made one plate, picked at it like she was scared my food had calories in it, and then leaned over to Malcolm and said, with me standing right there, "Baby, we're gonna have to get your mama on this no-salt plan, 'cause this right here is dangerous." Malcolm laughed. Not cute laughed. Laughed. That laugh was my first warning. Terrence brought Chanel a couple years after that. Chanel's not loud like Brianna, not slick. She's smiley and sweet in public. "Yes, ma'am, and let me help you with that." But her sweet always got a hook in it, the kind that sounds helpful as long as you don't listen too hard. I remember one Sunday dinner I had them all over. I made ribs because Terrence has always loved my ribs, and when I say always, I mean that boy once ate 6 in one sitting in high school and then fell asleep curled up on the floor like a pit bull pup. I set everything out nice, my good plates, my linen napkins, candles lit, even though it was just family. Chanel sat right at my table, folded her napkin and said, "Oh, this looks great, Miss Evelyn. I told Terrence we got to start working on your eating, though. At our age," and she laughed, patting her flat little stomach, "we can't just eat anything." At our age, she is 29 years younger than me. I swallowed it. I swallowed all of it. I swallowed comments and looks and the way they started to plan things without asking me. We're doing Christmas at Brianna's this year because her mama likes to decorate. Like my tree and my lights and my peppermint cocoa weren't traditions in this family for 30 years. We're going to Chanel's mom's for Easter brunch because she has a bigger dining room, and you know how tight your place gets. Like I hadn't packed that apartment full of plastic eggs and dollar store rabbits and laughter since they were in pull-ups. They started calling their in-laws Ma. They slipped and called Brianna's mama Grandma in front of my oldest granddaughter, little Joelle, and I watched Joelle turn and look at me like she didn't know what to say. I laughed it off. "I'm Nana," I told her, smiling big for her, big and bright and happy. You always know who Nana is. But when she turned back to her tablet a minute later, that smile slid right off my face. I felt hollow in a way I had never felt. But I still kept showing up. I kept buying school clothes and dance shoes and basketball uniforms. I kept babysitting at the last minute while Brianna and Malcolm went to networking dinners. And Chanel and Terrence went to this thing for her job, which was funny because they were always dressed for a club when they left for those job things I kept giving money. Oh, Lord, the money. They like to pretend I have some pile of cash hidden in a wall. The truth is, I spent my whole life putting whatever I could scrape together into one little savings account and praying the car didn't break down. Still, if they asked, I gave. When Malcolm wanted to buy a house in Westbridge Gardens because Brianna just couldn't raise the children in that little 2-bedroom apartment with paper-thin walls, it's not safe. It's not healthy. I sold the only thing I owned that had real value. The little brick house on Melrose that I'd been paying off, slow and faithful, for 32 years. That house was my safety. That house was, if something happens to me, at least I got this. At least I won't die in a rented room. I signed it over, took what little equity I had, and handed Malcolm $60,000 for a down payment. He cried when I did it, held me and cried and said, "Ma, I'm going to make you proud. You're moving in with us when we close. You'll never be alone again. You're going to have the room that faces the backyard just like you always dreamed. You won't have to climb no more stairs. You're going to sit out there and drink tea every morning. I promise. I swear to God that was 5.5 years ago. I'm still in a 3rd-floor walk-up with no elevator. I haven't spent one single night in that new house. Brianna told me I should have called first the last time I tried to stop by. She said, "We can't just have people popping up, Ms. Brooks, we're trying to teach the kids about healthy boundaries." She told me that from behind a door she barely opened. That day, I had a peach cobbler in my hand, my son's favorite since he could hold a spoon. You want to know something that will destroy you from the inside out? Standing on a porch in a neighborhood you paid to get your son into, holding a warm dish wrapped in foil, and hearing that you need to respect their boundaries. Now, Terrence, sweet baby Terrence, who used to rest his forehead on my back when thunderstorms scared him. Terrence had his dream too. He wanted to start a mobile detailing business after he got laid off from that warehouse. I am not lying to you. I took my retirement money. We're not talking millions. We're talking a modest old woman's cushion. And I gave him $14,000 to get the van, the equipment, the insurance. Mama, I'm going to flip this. I promise. I'll be able to take care of you. By Christmas, I'll have you straight. He ran that business for 4 months. You know what happened? Chanel told him it was too stressful and not stable enough for the lifestyle we're building, and she convinced him to quit and take a job in her cousin's phone store, making less money, working open to close for somebody else. He sold the van. Do you think I saw $1 back? He said, "Mama, you know how starting a business is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. At least I tried. At least I tried. Like my money was a scratch-off ticket." After that, their calls changed. I wasn't, "Hey, Ma, how are you?" anymore. I became, "Ma, you got a minute?" Or, "Ma, can I ask you something?" Or, "Ma, you sitting down?" They only checked on me if they needed rent unless it was my birthday. And even then, sometimes they forgot. I turned 66 in March, and my phone did not ring once until my neighbor Laverne knocked on my door around 7 at night with a cupcake and a candle and said, "Girl, I know they're busy, but I ain't never seen busy like that before." Let me tell you about Laverne. Laverne lives across the hall. She's 72, slim and sassy, wears her gray hair in a twist out like a crown, and walks through that building like she's security, management, and neighborhood watch all in one. She'll cuss you and hug you in the same breath. Me and Laverne are not blood, but she is family. She's the one who took me to the ER tonight. She's the one sleeping in that plastic chair next to my bed right now with her purse clutched under her arm, just in case somebody walks in here and tries something slick while I'm weak. She's the one who told the doctor, "You call them boys now." Not later. Now. She's the reason I'm alive, and still, my body almost didn't make it. Here's what happened. We were at Malcolm's house last night. Well, I call it Malcolm's house, but Brianna told me flat one time, "This is our home." I make the style decisions here, so I guess it's really Brianna's house with Malcolm's credit and my money. The plan was a big dinner for Brianna's promotion. She just got some title at the bank, regional something, I don't know, and she said it was a once-in-a-lifetime celebration, so they were doing a whole sit-down catered thing in their backyard. Tents, heaters, bar staff, plates so white they looked like they cost rent by themselves. I wasn't really invited. Let me be clear. I was included like a placeholder gets included. I found out because Terrence slipped and mentioned it 2 days before. I said, "Oh, y'all having a cookout?" He said, "It's not a cookout, Ma. This is actually kind of a brand moment for Brianna." A brand moment, okay. I asked what I should bring. He said, "Nothing. Brianna doesn't really want outside dishes mixing with the menu. It's elevated dining." So I went as a guest in a space I helped build, wearing the soft blue dress that Laverne said made me look like peace. And I sat at the end of one long table next to the heater like an afterthought. I smiled, I clapped, I nodded whenever one of Brianna's friends said, "Oh my gosh, you must be so proud," like I raised her and not Malcolm. About an hour in, right after the second round of champagne, I started feeling something in my chest. Pressure, not a sharp stab, not a pinch. More like somebody put a brick down and then pressed on that brick with both hands. The pressure was deep and crawling, up into my jaw, down my left arm. I felt a little sick, like I might throw up. I got lightheaded too. The world kind of faded and swam in and out. I tried to shift in my chair and found out I couldn't catch a full breath. Now listen, I know what a heart attack looks like on TV. Clutch the chest, gasp, fall over dramatically. But real life ain't TV. In real life, your body can be in crisis, and you still tiptoe because you don't want to ruin anything. So I leaned over to Malcolm, real gentle, and I whispered in his ear, "Baby, I don't feel right. I need to go to the hospital." And he, my baby, that I carried on my hip till my back hurt, my baby I sat up with when he had asthma attacks, my baby I fought a whole teacher over in 5th grade when she called him too much. He looked at me and said, without turning his head so he wouldn't be rude to Brianna's boss sitting across from him, "Ma, can you hold on? We're about to do the toast. Hold on. Hold on." For a toast. I knew at that moment, deep inside, that something had broken wide open in me that couldn't be repaired. I didn't make it through the toast. I stood up when Brianna started speaking and I thought, I'll just go to the bathroom and splash some water on my face. By the time I got to the sliding glass door, my knees were weak and hot sweat was rolling down my back. I grabbed the counter in their fancy kitchen and tried to breathe through it, and my vision went gray around the edges. I remember saying, real soft to no one in particular, "Lord, please." And then the world tipped. Next thing I knew, I was on the tile floor and Brianna was standing over me saying, oh my God, this is not happening right now," like my body was being disrespectful to her brand moment. Terrence came running in, and he looked scared, truly scared, and he said, Ma, can you hear me?" And I tried to say, "Call 911, but I don't know if it came out. When I came fully back, I was in an ambulance. Laverne was already in there, tight grip on my hand, her eyes on my face like she was counting each breath. She must have got a call from one of the grandkids and sped across town. Knowing her, she cussed the whole way. The EMT said, "Ma'am, stay with us, okay?" "You're in cardiac distress." I could hear the monitor beeping so fast, it sounded wrong. My chest felt like 100 pounds of wet sand were on it. My left arm felt numb and on fire at the same time. They put this mask on me, oxygen, and my body tried to panic but didn't have the energy. My heart did this slow-motion stumble inside my ribs, and then everything went black. That was the first time they brought me back. They tell me it happened twice more before we even rolled through the ER doors. At the hospital, Dr. Patel, little man, tired eyes, voice like stone, told Laverne, "We need family right now. We need decision makers," Laverne said. "I am family." He said, "By law, we need her sons." So he called Malcolm and Terrence. That's when he heard what I heard later. "We're in the middle of an event. We can't leave right this second. She's strong. She'll be fine. We can come in the morning." Now, let me tell you something ugly. Laverne told me later that she heard Brianna and Chanel in the background during those calls, laughing, music playing, people talking. She said she could hear glasses clinking and somebody turned up the music louder, like the girls didn't even want to hear the hospital noise kill the vibe. I want you to sit with that. Your heart stops in the back of an ambulance and your children turn the music up. People always say, family will be there. We say it like it's law. We say it like it's carved into the side of a mountain. But sometimes family ain't nothing but a story you've been telling yourself to survive. They took me straight to the cath lab. That's what they called it. They put in 2 stents to open arteries I didn't even know had been closing on me for years. That's what stress does. That's what always being needed and never being held does. It sits on you. It eats your heart from the inside first. They wheeled me to ICU and hooked me to machines. That cold monitor beep, beep, beeped in the dark like a little ticking clock, and I woke up with a sore throat from the tube, a deep ache in the middle of my chest, and a quiet like you hear in churches after the choir stops. I asked one question before I asked for water. "Are my boys here?" Kiana, the nurse, looked at me like she didn't know how to say it gentle. "Not yet," she whispered. "But your friend's here." "She hasn't left." She moved her head toward the chair by the bed. Laverne. Head tilted back, mouth open, old purse hugged to her chest like a baby, one shoe off. I could have cried just looking at her. I didn't, though. I'm tired of crying in front of folks that don't deserve to see me weak, so I blinked the tears back and just nodded. "Miss." "Brooks," Kiana said, "you have to lay still and stay calm. Your heart's been through something major." Calm. Don't get upset. Don't stress. Don't think about the fact that the doctor told your sons this could be your last night, and they decided to finish dessert first. Now listen, this part right here is where I turned a corner in my soul, because we all talk big. We all say, if they did that to me, I'd be done. Or, let somebody ever disrespect me like that and watch what I do. But when it comes down to our own children, our own babies, most of us bend till we snap. They think love means we will always let them come home. They think they can talk to us any kind of way and still have a bed waiting. They think mama is forever no matter how they treat mama. And for years that was true. For years I let it be true. I smiled when I was hurt so they wouldn't feel bad. I forgave before they even said sorry. I told myself, that's just how young folks are now, and they'll come around, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not out in the streets, and at least they're not working, and at least they bring the kids by sometimes. And I kept shrinking, 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 making myself smaller and smaller just to still fit in their lives. But let me tell you what dying for 4 minutes will do. It will take all that soft out of you. It will strip you down to bone and truth. It will make you see how little time you actually have and how much of it you've already gifted to people who treat you like background noise. I lay there that first night and I said to myself, Evelyn, this is it. You can either keep begging for a seat in a house you paid for, or you can stand up and build a new table somewhere else. And because here is what shook me to my core. It wasn't just that they didn't come, it's that they weren't even embarrassed to say they weren't coming. They did not see me as worthy of urgent love. I was not drop everything and go to them. I was not top of the list. I wasn't even second or third. I had fallen off the list entirely. That breaks something in you that don't ever knit back the same. I didn't sleep. I waited for the door to open. I kept thinking any second they'd come in rushing, faces wide with panic, shirts wrinkled, hair messy, all that I drove across town in my slippers energy we always dreamed of. I kept thinking, they gonna come in saying, "Mama, Mama, oh my God, Mama, what happened?" Nobody came. No call to the nurse's desk. No, "Is she awake yet?" Nothing. That's when the anger hit me. Not tears, not sadness. Anger. Clean anger. Sharp anger. Anger that comes when you finally see the full picture, and it's not the picture you've been hanging in your heart. That anger is what saved my life. Around 4 a.m, I asked Kiana for a pen and paper. I said, "Baby, I need to write something down before I fall asleep, 'cause if I die in here and nobody knows how I really feel, I'm going to be mad even in the afterlife." She laughed a little at that. She thinks I'm funny. We black women laugh even in the worst moments because sometimes that's the only air we get. She brought me a clipboard. I propped myself up slow, wincing because the incision in my groin burned. My hand was shaking a little from the meds, but I put that pen to paper and I started writing. Not just a note, not just a "you hurt me." I wrote my life. "Dear Malcolm and Terrence," I started, "by the time you finish reading this, I'll be gone." Now, I don't mean dead, I mean gone. Let me explain. I told them about when their daddy left, and I chose not to chase him because I wanted them to grow up in peace, not in shouting. I told them about the nights I sewed until my eyes blurred, hemming people's fancy clothes while wearing the same 3 blouses to work all year. I told them about the mornings my hands shook pouring cereal because I'd only gotten 2 hours of sleep. I told them about not dating so they wouldn't feel pushed out by another man in the house. I told them I had offers. I told them I could have had a life. I said, "I want you to know, I did not stay alone because nobody wanted me. I stayed alone because I chose you. You were my choice." I wrote about every dollar. I wrote how Malcolm came to me saying, "Ma, Brianna found a place. It's perfect. We just need a little help with the down payment. We'll pay you back inside 2 years, I swear." And I wrote how I sold the Melrose house to make that happen. I wrote how Terrence came to me 2 summers ago, eyes full of tears, saying, "Mama, I just need a little help getting started. Chanel's really stressed. I don't want her to feel like I ain't providing." And I wrote how I cracked my last bit of retirement open for him and said, "Baby, I believe in you." And I meant it. I wrote how Mother's Day turned into, "We can swing by for 10 minutes if you'll have something ready." And how Christmas turned into, "We're doing something small this year with just our household. Sorry, Mom, you know how crazy things get." And how my birthday turned into silence. I wrote, "You keep saying I am strong. You say it like it's a reason not to show up. You say it like it means I don't feel pain. You say it to make yourselves feel better. Strong is not the same as unbreakable," I wrote. "On the night my heart nearly quit, your answer to the doctor was, 'We can't just leave, but you have asked me to leave my job, leave my rest, leave my dignity, leave my home, leave my savings, leave my plans, leave my friends for 47 years, and I did it every single time without asking a question.'" I wrote, "I want you to understand that I died once for 4 minutes last night. Tonight I am dying in a different way. I am letting the mother you think you can use and ignore go. She is done." Then I told them the part that would change everything. I told them I was leaving. Not the hospital. East Ridge. I was done. Done waiting for a text back. Done hoping they'd include me. Done sitting by the phone like a teenager with a crush. Done accepting the scraps and calling it love. Done pretending we were still a normal family instead of a performance we put on for other people. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where can a 67-year-old woman go with a weak heart and 2 stents in her chest and not a whole lot of money? That's what people like to ask. Where you gonna go? Like fear of the unknown is enough to make you stay in hell. But see, God sends you people. He really does. In my case, God sent me Laverne. Me and Laverne been each other's backup for years. Rides to the clinic. You okay? Knocks on the door. watching each other's mail when one of us goes to visit a cousin. But we'd never talked about leaving. Leaving was always a fantasy, like, what if we just packed a bag and drove somewhere warm while we sat on the stairs fanning ourselves in July heat? That kind of talk. But I knew Laverne had a sister down in Savannah. Laverne talks about her all the time. My baby sister Marilyn got a cute little house near Daffin Park, lemon tree in the yard, porch swing, said I can come any time I get sick of y'all. Every time she said it, she laughed. I always laughed too. I wasn't laughing now. I wrote in that letter, by the time you read this, I'll be on my way to Savannah, Georgia. I said it plain. I didn't dress it up. I wanted them to feel it like a door slamming. Do not call. Do not come looking. You will not be told where I'm staying. I will be safe. I will be cared for. I will be loved. Just not by you. You had that job and you gave it up for canapes. Accept that. When I finished, my hand was cramping and my eyes were burning, but I felt light, like I'd taken off a coat I'd been dragging behind me for years. I signed it with my full name, the way you sign something legal. With final love and without regret, your mother, Evelyn Brooks. I folded that letter up neat, slid it into an envelope, and wrote both their names on the front in big, steady letters. I set it on my tray table where Laverne could see it when she woke. I slept after that. Real sleep. Not old woman nap sleep. Not I fell asleep in the chair because I'm tired sleep. The kind of sleep babies get when they know they're safe. When I woke up, the sun was cutting little yellow lines through the blinds. My chest still ached and my throat was dry, but I felt clear. I felt awake in my spirit. Kiana came in with a little smile and said, "Good morning, Ms. Brooks." "You looking better. I made a decision last night," I told her. "Oh, Lord," she said, laughing. "That sounds serious." "It is." About an hour after I woke, Malcolm and Terrence finally showed up. And yes, they waited until after the party and after sleep and after showers and after whatever they needed to do to feel presentable. I could tell because they both walked in with fresh clothes and clean fades like they were coming to a meeting, not coming to see if their mama was alive. They didn't come alone. Brianna came in on Malcolm's arm in a pale pink jumpsuit smelling like money, and Chanel walked in with Terrence, hair laid, nails flawless, face done like she was going to brunch. They were all talking in the hallway before they got to my door, laughing about something, and then they stepped in and put on their sad faces. "Oh my God, Ma," Malcolm said, walking to the side of my bed like I was a client in a hospital TV show. "You scared us. You scared us. You scared us. Not, we were wrong. Not, we should have come. You did this to us, Mama. You inconvenienced us." Terrence kissed my forehead and said, "You look good though, Ma. You do. You look strong." That word again. Strong. They love that word because it lets them off the hook. Brianna took my hand like someone touching a stranger at church. "You had us all shaken," she said. "I told Malcolm all night, 'Baby, we got to check on your mama first thing in the morning.' And here we are." Chanel nodded. "We came as soon as we could," she said. "We had family in from out of town." It was kind of impossible last night. Then they started talking about Brianna's party, right there, while I'm laying there with tubes in me. "Baby, they loved your speech," Chanel told Brianna. "When you thanked the district leadership team? Phew, you had Mr. Green tearing up." Brianna laughed, hand over her chest like, "Stop." She said, "And that cake? You saw the cake? Girl, gold leaf. Actual gold leaf. You know I don't play about moments. I watched them talk about canapes and gold leaf cake in my ICU room like they were recapping an awards show. I just listened. I didn't interrupt. I was done interrupting." When they finally remembered that I was the reason they were in the room at all, Malcolm cleared his throat and said, "So, doctor said you're going to be okay, right?" "Doctor said I died," I said. They laughed like I was being dramatic. "No, Malcolm," I said. "He said my heart stopped 3 times. He said I was technically not here for 4 minutes." The room went quiet. Brianna looked at Chanel. Chanel looked at the floor. Malcolm swallowed. Terrence shifted like he couldn't get comfortable in that chair. Brianna spoke first. Of course she did. "Well, praise God you're okay now," she said, quick, bright. "That's what matters. No point in stressing about what already happened. Stress is bad for the heart at your age. I felt something in me go still." "At my age?" I said, slow. Chanel cut in fast. "She didn't mean it like that, Ms. Evelyn. She just means you gotta be careful now. We all gotta be careful. We were actually talking about that in the car on the way here." "Talking about what?" I asked. Now Malcolm perked up, real eager, like a man about to show you the plan he made for you without you. "We've been thinking, Ma. Me and Brianna and Terrence and Chanel, we've been thinking about what's best for you from here." "What's best for me?" I repeated. "Yes," Brianna said, jumping in again like she's the CEO of my life. "Because we love you. And we feel like you've been doing too much on your own. You know, still living up those stairs, still trying to carry groceries by yourself, still cooking, still worrying everyone, and we said, this isn't safe. This isn't sustainable." Chanel nodded and took over. "We found this place," she said. "It's like a senior community, but nice. Not like a nursing home. Nothing sad like that. This one has, like, activities, social stuff, a little salon, crafts. They got 24-hour nursing staff and everything. You'd have help if something happened. And there's a shuttle," Malcolm added, like he was giving me a vacation package. "They'll take you to the grocery store and to the doctor and stuff, so you won't be bothering Laverne all the time. 'Cause we know you hate asking for help," I looked at my sons. I said, "So, after missing the night I almost died, the plan is to put me in a home so you don't have to be bothered." "Mama, don't say it like that," Terrence said, sounding hurt, like I was the one being unfair. "You know we love you. We're just trying to make sure you're managed." Managed. Like a package, like a task, like a bill. Brianna smiled, all teeth. "It's really a blessing, Ms. Brooks." We did the math. It's about $2,100 a month. Between your pension and Social Security, and a small contribution from us, we can make it work. And you'll be with people your own age. Not lonely. You could make some friends. Everything in the room felt far away suddenly. Their voices had that underwater sound. I could feel the blood moving in my temples with every beat of my heart. I could smell the hospital bleach. I could hear Laverne shifting in her chair by the window, where she'd woken up but stayed quiet on purpose to let them kids hang themselves with their own rope. I said, "Huh," because that's all I could say without flames leaping out of my mouth. "Ma, don't be mad," Malcolm said. "We're trying. You can't still live how you've been living. You can't be cooking heavy meals and carrying your laundry up those stairs. You need to let people care for you. This boy has not carried one bag of my groceries in 4 years. I didn't say that. I didn't have to. It was sitting in my eyes. I asked one question. I asked it slowly. Who decided this? They didn't even hesitate. We all talked, Brianna said. It's a family decision. Family. That word tasted bitter in my mouth. Family is supposed to mean, we'll walk out of any room for you without asking questions. Family is not, we had a meeting about you while you were unconscious. I let that sit between us. Then I smiled. Now listen to me. That smile scared them. I saw it. I can still scare my sons even after all this. It's the same smile I used to give them when they lied about breaking something in the house. Slow, calm, no yelling, just that little pull at the corner of my mouth that meant Judgment Day was coming. I think you're right, I said. Their shoulders dropped. You could see the relief roll through them like a wave. The women exchanged glances like, see? We handled it. Chanel even reached over and patted my hand. I think you're right, I said again. I think it's time for a change. I think it's time for me to go somewhere where people check on me, where people care about what happens if I fall, where people don't mind opening the door when I show up, where I can sit in the sun and breathe easy without feeling like I'm in the way. Where I can cook without somebody telling me my food is too heavy, and my seasonings are too strong, and my clothes are too old, and my opinions are too much. Where I can be Evelyn, not a problem y'all need to manage. Brianna frowned like she hadn't expected that angle. Well, yes, she said slowly. Yes, exactly. That's what we've been saying. I nodded. Good. Then we agree. They stayed maybe 20 more minutes after that. They talked mostly to each other, not to me, about a weekend trip they had planned next month. We're going to Miami, Brianna said. A quick getaway. We deserve it after all this stress. Chanel talked about a rug they wanted to order for their dining room. Terrence laughed about some video he saw. Malcolm checked his phone every few seconds. They kissed my forehead. They said, "We love you, Ma. Rest up. And call us if you need anything. Unless it's real late, just text first." And they left. When the door closed behind them, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, since Malcolm told me to hold on for the toast. Something inside me unclenched. Laverne stood up slow, knees popping, and walked over to my bed. She leaned down, put her lips by my ear, and said, low and steady, "You still want to do this?" "Yes," I whispered. My throat tightened up. "More than I want anything." "Okay then," she said. "Then we do it." That it was the plan we'd already started building. Now, I told you earlier about Savannah. I told you about Laverne's sister Marilyn and the porch swing and the lemon tree. That wasn't just talk. Marilyn been telling Laverne for years, "Girl, you come on down here any time. I got space. You tired of that raggedy building? Come sit under this live oak with me and drink sweet tea till you forget what stress feels like." While I was writing my letter, Laverne had already been texting Marilyn. "Pack a room," she wrote. "We sending you company." Marilyn wrote back, "Say less." "I'll wash the sheets." After my boys left, Laverne pulled a worn Walgreens envelope out of her purse and slid it onto my lap under the blanket. It was thick. I could feel the paper inside. She leaned in and said, "That's $3,000 cash from the savings you told me about. The one they don't know exists. I went and got it yesterday. I ain't touching a dime. That's yours. I got it tucked in my bra when I came in here 'cause this hospital full of folks I don't trust. Don't you ever say I ain't ride for you." I couldn't even speak for a second. All I could do was look at her. She nodded like, "Don't make this sentimental, girl," and fanned her eyes with her hand like she was hot. I said, "Is Marilyn sure?" Laverne sucked her teeth. "Marilyn been begging to have somebody in that house besides her and them dusty lilies she keep on the table. You know she hate eating alone. Girl, you gonna be doing her a favor." Next came the legal part. See, I may be old, but I'm not stupid. You cannot just disappear as an elder black woman without covering yourself. Because if you do, people will call you missing, and the law will act like you've been kidnapped, and then your kids who ignored you will suddenly show up in court trying to protect you so they can get control of your money. That happens, a lot. We all know somebody. But Laverne's cousin's daughter, Corinne, is a paralegal. Corinne knows a woman named Attorney Yvette Cole, a black woman lawyer who's been shutting folks down in this town since the early 90s. While I was in surgery, Laverne had already called Corinne, who called Ms. Cole, who said, "I'll be there in the morning." Ms. Cole walked into that hospital room at 9 that night, wearing a navy suit and gold hoops, and she did not waste not 1 second. She asked me if I understood what I was doing. I said yes. She asked me if anyone was forcing me. I said no. She asked me if I trusted Laverne. I said with my whole chest, "That woman is more my family than the people that share my blood." Ms. Cole drew up papers right there on her tablet. A limited power of attorney giving Laverne permission to handle my lease, close my accounts, sell or donate my furniture, pick up my prescriptions, and sign for me where needed. Another paper that said I was of sound mind, aware, and moving by my own choice. A third paper that updated my will. Now this part right here. This part is where a lot of folks are going to clutch their chest. I don't care. Up until that night, everything I had, my tiny savings, the life insurance policy I've been paying on since '98, even my mother's pearls that my grandmother brought up from Louisiana in a shoebox during the '50s, all of it was going to Malcolm and Terrence. That's how it always is. Leave it to the kids. You give, you give, you give, and then when you die, you give some more. Not anymore. Ms. Cole slid the tablet toward me and said, "Ms. Brooks, who do you want to receive your estate?" "My granddaughter Joelle," I said. Now I love all my grandbabies, but Joelle is different. She is Malcolm's oldest, the one who used to sit on my lap and play with my necklace and say, "Nana, tell me about when you were little." She is the only one who still calls me just to call me. She is 13 and still has that soft heart they haven't hardened yet. I cannot save my sons, but I might be able to save one girl from turning cold like them. "And," I said, "I want something set aside for women like me." "Women who get forgot," Ms. Cole typed while I talked. "What you thinking?" "Is there somewhere here in East Ridge that helps older black women who don't got nobody?" I asked. "Someplace that helps them pay their rent when they get sick, or gives them rides to the doctor, or just checks on them so they don't die alone in an apartment and nobody know for a week?" Ms. Cole nodded slow. "Yes, ma'am," she said. "There's a fund at Mount Bethel Community Center. I can assign money to that in your name." "That," I said. "Do that." So we did it. We took my sons' names off everything. Let me say that again so you hear me. I took my sons' names off everything. Not because I wanted to be mean, not because I wanted to get revenge, like people in the cheap seats will say, because I needed to protect the last of what I had from people who had already shown me that my life did not sit high on their list. When Ms. Cole finished, she handed me a pen. My hand shook a little, but I signed. Evelyn Brooks. That's who I've always been. I just forgot for a while. Then all that was left was to leave. Now, had I been younger, I probably would have tried to sneak out in the middle of the night. But I'm not 25. I am a 67-year-old black woman with 2 new stents and a healing artery. I wasn't about to rip wires out my chest and run. What I did instead was let the doctor discharge me one day early. How, you ask, if my sons wanted to manage the whole process? Simple. I told Dr. Patel that I'd be going home with Laverne. He said, "Are your sons okay with that?" I looked at him and said, "Doctor, are you okay being lied to by middle-aged men who still scared of their wives more than they scared of God?" He laughed. He said, "That's between y'all." So the next afternoon, Laverne rolled me out of East Ridge Memorial in a wheelchair, paperwork in her bag, cash tucked in her bra, my letter folded in her pocket. I wore a simple gray sweatsuit and my flats and kept my head down. Not because I was ashamed, because I didn't want to see pity in the eyes of some nurse who'd heard the whole story. I've had enough pity to last me forever. We didn't go to my apartment. We didn't go to Laverne's place. We went straight to the bus station. That's right, the bus station. Not a flight, a bus. You might be thinking, why didn't you fly? Baby, do you think I'm trying to get on a plane with a fresh heart surgery and a son who might still track my location through the app he set up on my phone for safety 2 years ago? Number. The bus is slow and the bus is quiet, and nobody on that bus is checking for you. That was exactly what I needed. Anonymity. Laverne bought me a ticket to Savannah, hugged me so tight I thought she'd crack me open again and said, "You call me as soon as you get there. And if you don't like it, we'll think of somewhere else. You ain't never trapped again, you hear me?" "I hear you," I whispered. "Say it," she said, and her eyes were wet. "I'm not trapped," I said. My throat closed up. "Not anymore." "That's right," she said. "Now go on." I got on that bus with a small suitcase, a zip-up sweater, my blood pressure meds, and my whole new life sitting in a Walgreens envelope. I did not text Malcolm. I did not text Terrence. I did not text Brianna or Chanel. I did send Joelle one message. Just one. Nana loves you. Always remember who you are, And don't let nobody tell you your worth comes from what you can do for them. Call me from your own phone when you can, not your daddy's. I didn't say where I was going. I couldn't risk her letting it slip. Then I turned my phone off. The bus rolled out of East Ridge, over that cracked bridge, past the billboard that says, "Thanks for visiting our town," like it's some sweet little place. And I watched my old life fall behind me in the mirror. The ride to Savannah was 11 hours. It felt like shedding skin. Mile by mile, worry fell off me. Shame fell off me. That voice in my head that said, "You can't start over at your age," got quieter and quieter as the dark countryside slid past. It was still dark when we pulled into the outskirts of Savannah. Dawn was barely thinking about showing up. I could smell that marshy, heavy salt air even through the bus windows. The driver said, "Savannah Station." Last stop. My legs felt weak when I stood, but that weakness wasn't fear this time. That weakness was excitement sitting in my bones. Marilyn was waiting for me in the terminal wearing a big yellow sundress and a denim jacket and Crocs covered in little charms. She had brown skin like honey and tight silver curls all over her head and a smile that looked like rest. "Evelyn," she said. And just hearing my name in that soft voice almost broke me. I hadn't realized how long it had been since somebody used my name like a welcome instead of a chore. She didn't ask, "What happened?" right away. She didn't ask, "Where are your sons?" She just held my face in both her hands like I was hers and said, "You hungry?" That's love. Her house, and now I can say our house because she meant it, sits on a quiet little street where all the porches have chairs instead of broken stuff. Spanish moss falls from the big trees like old lace curtains. The air smells sweet down there. It's humid, but it's kind. That's the only way I can put it. East Ridge air feels like pressure. Savannah air felt like somebody rubbing my shoulders. Marilyn's got this backyard with little wind chimes and herbs in terracotta pots and an old metal table that wobbles a bit but holds steady if you treat it gentle. She set me out there with some eggs and grits and a biscuit that tasted like care, and she said, "Okay." "Now talk." I told her everything. I told her without crying for the first time. I told her like I was telling a story about someone else, because that's what it felt like now. That dying woman in East Ridge was someone else. I was Evelyn in Savannah, and Evelyn in Savannah was alive. Marilyn listened. Sometimes she shook her head. Sometimes she sucked her teeth. Sometimes she reached over and tapped the table like a little drum when something especially ugly came out. But she didn't interrupt with, "You should have." She didn't say, "Why didn't you?" The first time she did speak, it was to say, "I'm glad you left." Not, "I'm sorry you had to leave. I'm glad you left." That's when I knew I was going to be okay. My body healed slow. I had to nap a lot. Marilyn hovered without smothering. She cut my pills up and sat them next to a glass of water and said, "Take those." She made sure I walked a little every day, just to keep the blood moving. She fussed when I tried to do too much. "Sit down, woman. You ain't got nothing to prove to nobody here. You done already proved it all." While my chest was healing, my spirit was stretching, like it had been cramped in a box and was finally opening. I slept through the night for the first time in 5, maybe 6 years. No waking up to my heart pounding at 3 a.m., no reaching for my phone hoping for a text that said, "Hey Ma, just thinking about you." I woke up to birds and the clink of Marilyn spooning sugar into her coffee. I found a new routine. In the mornings, when the sun wasn't high yet, we'd sit on the porch and watch the neighborhood wake up. Folks down there actually speak when they pass. "Good morning," and "Hey now," and "How y'all doing?" Like it's nothing to see you. I wasn't invisible there. I wasn't in the way. I was just part of the morning. By week 2, Marilyn walked me 3 blocks over to a little community center. "This is Ms. Dottie," she said, pointing to a woman in a tracksuit and big hoop earrings. "She runs senior movement class." "I don't do no Zumba," I said. Ms. Dottie laughed. "Baby, this ain't Zumba. This is keep your hips loose so you don't fall later. She broke it down for me. You had heart trouble? Okay, we don't push. We keep it smooth. We stretch. We move to Frankie Beverly. You'll live longer. So I went. I stood in a little room with 8 other black women, all of us in different kinds of sweats, and we rolled our shoulders to maze and took slow steps side to side and raised our arms overhead like praise. We laughed, we talked, we complained about doctors and children and foot pain. We bragged on our potato salad. I felt more seen in that 1 hour than I had in the last 10 years of holidays with my sons. After class, Ms. Dottie said, "We're starting a card night on Fridays if you play spades." I said, "Do I play spades?" She said, "Good, 'cause we need somebody who can actually count." By month 2, I found something else, something I didn't know I needed. At the community center, there's a bulletin board with little index cards pinned up. Babysitting, yard help, tutoring, food prep. One of them said, "Looking for part-time help in small soul food kitchen. Light work. Pay is honest. Call Miss June." I called Miss June. Miss June runs a weekday kitchen out of the back of a church. She feeds folks lunch who can't afford restaurant prices but still want real food. Turkey wings, cabbage, rice and gravy, cornbread. Nothing fancy, nothing elevated. And it smelled like my grandmother's house on a Sunday. You walk in that kitchen and you feel like a memory. "Can you season?" Miss June asked me. She's maybe 75, short, arms thick from stirring heavy pots her whole life. I looked at her and said, "Ma'am, I done fed 2 boys into grown men and 4 grandbabies. I cook with my heart, my elbow, and my ancestors. You tell me if I can season." She laughed so loud she had to wipe her eyes. "You start Monday," she said. Now I know what some people will say. "Why you working at your age? Why you not just resting?" Baby, you don't understand. This wasn't work like clocking in and being used. This was being part of something that loved me back. Miss June didn't talk down to me. She didn't micromanage. She didn't correct my cornbread like Brianna did that one Thanksgiving with her gluten-free, dairy-free, flavor-free version. Miss June said, "Evelyn, you on greens today?" And then she'd sing while she chopped onions and we'd gossip and laugh and talk mess about some pastor who won't be named. And the people who came in to eat, they said, "Thank you, Miss Evelyn." They said it like they meant it. One man said, "These greens taste like somebody care if I'm alive." I had to excuse myself and go cry in the storage closet for a minute because that right there, that was the first time in forever somebody thanked me for care and not for money. So yes, I worked, not for survival, for joy. About 6 weeks after I left, Laverne called me. Now she had been calling every few days just to check in because that's my girl. But this call was different. Her voice had a little bounce to it like she'd been waiting to spill some tea. "You ready for this?" she asked. "I'm sitting down," I said, putting the phone on speaker and propping my feet on Marilyn's porch rail. "They got your letter." I leaned back. "How bad was it?" "Ooh, girl," Laverne said, drawing it out like I knew she would. "When I tell you I almost pulled me a chair and popped some popcorn. Tell me. I went over to Malcolm's house like we said. Knocked on that front door he never let you walk through. Brianna opened it like she was answering for the governor. 'Can I help you?' she said. I said, 'You sure can. You can go get Malcolm and Chanel and Terrence and sit they behinds down in that living room, 'cause I got something from Evelyn and I am not repeating it twice.'" I smiled. I could see it in my head. Laverne is 5'3" of pure don't play with me. "They all sat," Laverne continued, looking nervous for the first time in their grown lives. I handed Malcolm the envelope. He opened it up so slow you'd think it was gonna explode. He started reading out loud. At first his voice was all smooth. "Dear Malcolm and Terrence." Then it started shaking. By the time he got to the part where you wrote, "You left me for a party," Brianna jumped up talking about, "Now wait a second." And I said, "Sit down, gal. You gon' hear this." My chest got tight, but not in a painful way, in a release way. When he got to, "By the time you read this, I'll be gone," Laverne said. Terrence just broke. I ain't never seen that boy cry like that. He started calling your phone right then, 8 times back to back. Chanel was pacing like she was waiting on the police. Brianna had her hand over her mouth like somebody slapped her with words. And Malcolm? Baby, Malcolm couldn't finish. Couldn't even get through the part where you said you ain't leaving them nothing. I had to take it and read it for him. Hearing that, I felt not happy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not cruel, but I felt justice. I felt balance settling back into the world. I felt like they finally had to sit in a truth I had been drowning in alone. "What they say after?" I asked. "They went through stages," Laverne said. "First stage was denial. She's bluffing. She's trying to teach us a lesson. She'll be back." Then anger. "How could she do this to us? How could she embarrass us like this?" And baby, I let him have it. I said, "Embarrass you? Embarrass you?" And I told him exactly how you looked in that ICU bed, and exactly what that doctor said, and exactly what y'all said back about, "We can't leave right now." I closed my eyes. The porch breeze moved across my face like a hand. "Then they went into panic," Laverne went on. "Calling the hospital. Calling your apartment. Calling me again and again, even though I told them, I ain't nothing but a messenger, sweetie. And when none of that worked, when they realized you really meant what you wrote, they got quiet. That's the last stage. Silence. The kind of silence people have when they finally see themselves in a mirror and don't like what they're looking at." "Good," I whispered. "Malcolm said one thing before I left," Laverne added. "He said, 'We'll fix this. We'll bring her back.' I told him, 'Baby, your mama ain't a stray dog you call, and she run back. She's a woman. She left. She gone. You can't just bring her back. You had her and you lost her.' Then I walked out that front door and made sure it shut hard behind me. I laughed then. I laughed loud. Marilyn stuck her head out the screen door and said, 'You over there cackling, you want some tea?' 'Yes,' I called. 'Sweet.' She nodded and disappeared back inside, singing to herself. After that, the messages started. First, it was Malcolm. 'Ma, please, this ain't funny. Please answer.' Then, 'Ma, I'm serious. Call me.' Then, 'Ma, I'm worried about you.' Then Terrence. 'Mama, I'm sorry. I know I ain't been right. Please just tell me you're okay.' Then, 'Mama, Chanel said you're being manipulated. Please don't let nobody take advantage of you.' Then, 'I love you, Mama. Please don't do this.' Then Brianna. 'Ms. Brooks, we apologize if you felt unsupported in a time of distress. Families go through rough seasons, but walking away is not healthy. We can all sit down and create boundaries and expectations that work for everyone without involving outsiders. That's what she called the woman who saved my life at 3 a.m. while Brianna was getting compliments on her gold leaf cake. Then Chanel. 'Ms. Evelyn, I just want to say from woman to woman, this wasn't how it was supposed to be. Things got bigger than they were. Terrence loves you. We all do. Don't punish us forever for one night.' One night. One night. As if it was just that one night. As if it wasn't years. You want to know what I replied? Nothing. Not one word. Because here's what I learned. You cannot heal in the same room that's been killing you. You cannot hand your heart to people who keep dropping it on the floor and then act shocked when it cracks. You cannot keep giving chances to folks who are counting on you to keep giving chances. So I let the silence do the talking for me. Weeks turned into months. My heart got stronger. My walk got longer. The skin under my eyes smoothed out. I laughed more. I ate on the porch with Marilyn, who told me stories about her first love down on River Street, and how she once turned down a marriage proposal because the man didn't clap when she sang in church. "If you don't clap for me in public, you don't get me in private," she said, winking. I told her she was scandalous. She said, "Girl, I ain't dead yet." I started singing again, too. I hadn't sung in years. I used to hum around the house, used to sing little church songs when the boys were small and scared of thunder. Somewhere along the way, I went quiet. In Savannah, one Sunday, Marilyn took me to her church. It's a small black church with wood pews and fans that still got Dr. King's face on them. They started, "His eye is on the sparrow," and halfway through the first verse, I opened my mouth and real sound came out. Not whisper singing. Singing from my belly. A woman in the next pew turned around and smiled at me with tears in her eyes, like she'd been waiting to hear that note from me her whole life. After service, an older deaconess walked up to me and said, "You're singing next week, baby." I said, "No, ma'am, I am not." She said, "Baby, I said what I said. So now on Sundays, I sing. Not for them, for me." One evening about 3 months after I left, I was sitting on the porch swing by myself. Marilyn had gone to bed early. The crickets were out, the air was heavy and sweet. My phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw a number I didn't know. I almost ignored it. I almost let it slide. But something in me said, "Pick up," I answered. "Hello?" Silence at first, then a voice, small and shaking. "Nana?" I sat up so fast the swing creaked. "Joelle?" "Nana," she whispered, and I could hear she'd been crying. "Where are you? Daddy said you ran off. Daddy said you're being dramatic and you'll come back when you calm down. Chanel said you're confused. Brianna said you're trying to punish them. Are you okay? Are you mad at me? Did I do something? Please don't be gone forever. Please, please." I had to grab the edge of the swing with one hand and press the other against my chest, because that right there almost took me out more than the heart attack. "Oh, baby," I said real soft. "No, no, 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 my love. You didn't do nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Nana is not mad at you. Nana is proud of you. Nana loves you so much it hurt. You hear me?" I could hear her sniffling on the other end. "Then why'd you leave?" I closed my eyes and let the night air fill my nose so I wouldn't cry too hard and scare her. "Because, baby," I said, "when grown folks show you you don't matter to them, you got two choices. You can stay and keep letting them hurt you, or you can go and build a life where you are loved for real." I chose love. I chose me. I had to, baby. I had to, because if I stayed, I wasn't going to make it. Do you understand? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I think so." "I am safe," I said, clear. "I am being taken care of. I am laughing. I am resting. I am eating. I am singing. I am not alone. I am not sick in the dark. I am okay. Do you hear me?" "Yes, ma'am," she said, little voice stronger now. "Are you coming back?" "Not to live," I said. "Not to be how it was. I can't, baby. It wasn't good for me. But you call me. You call me on your phone. Not on your daddy's. You call me anytime you want. Morning, night, I don't care. You got something you need to say and nobody listening? You call Nana? You scared? You call Nana? You happy? You call Nana? You need somebody to clap for you? You call Nana. I will always clap for you. Do you hear me?" "Yes, ma'am," she said again, and this time I could hear that smile. "I love you, Nana." "I love you more," I said. After we hung up, I sat out there and let myself cry for real. Not sad tears. Grieving, yes. You don't walk away from your own children without grieving, but also relief. Because that call told me something I didn't know I needed to know. My love still had a place to land. People ask me now, "Do you regret it?" They ask quiet, like maybe I'm ashamed. A few of Marilyn's church friends pull me aside and whisper, "I heard you left your whole family behind. Was it really that bad?" I look them right in the face and say, "Worse." Do I miss Malcolm and Terrence? I miss the little versions. I miss my baby boys with the crooked socks and the ashy knees and the endless questions. I miss Terrence's sleepy forehead pressed into my back when thunder cracked. I miss Malcolm's little hand tapping my arm saying, "Ma." M.A. You watching? You watching? I miss the part of me that believed love meant forever. But I do not miss being disrespected in slow motion. I do not miss being erased soft and pretty so nobody had to admit what they were doing. I do not miss begging to be included in lives I financed. I do not miss being managed. The life I have now? It's not fancy. I don't live in a mansion. I don't have a driver. I don't wake up in silk pajamas. I wake up in a little back bedroom with a fan in the window and a quilt Marilyn's aunt sewed by hand. I have a chipped mug I drink coffee from every morning. I go to movement class. I stir greens at Miss June's kitchen. I sing on Sundays. I sit on the porch at night with Marilyn and we laugh about nothing until her laugh turns into coughing. And I slap her on the back and tell her, "Get some water, old woman." And she tells me, "Who you calling old?" And let me tell you something I never thought I'd be able to say with a straight face. I am happy. I am happy in a way I didn't know I could be at this age. I am happy without walking on eggshells. I am happy without checking my phone to see if someone needs money. I am happy without wondering why I wasn't good enough to be included. I am happy without trying to be small. I am free. That freedom didn't come cheap. It cost me 2 sons. It cost me a picture I'd carried in my head of what my old age was supposed to look like. It cost me a lot of tears. It cost me the little brick house on Melrose. It cost me my heart, literally, and not just in the poetic way people say. But if you want to know if I do it again, yes, every time. Because here is the truth, and I want you to hear it deep. Being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing that can happen to you is being surrounded by people who make you feel alone while they eat off your plate. Sometimes the bravest, loudest act of love you will ever do for yourself is to walk. That's why I'm telling you this. I don't tell this story so you'll feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me. Save that for the woman still trying to make a home where she is only a wallet. I tell this because I know there is somebody listening to me right now. Some black mother, some black grandmother, some black auntie, some black woman who has spent her whole life being strong, who is sitting in a quiet kitchen with swollen feet and a sore back and a phone full of unread "I need" messages, and she is wondering if she is allowed to want peace. I am here to tell you yes. Yes, you are. You are allowed to want joy. You are allowed to want softness. You are allowed to be loved for real. You are allowed to refuse to die begging for people who would not miss a plate to come hold your hand. You are allowed to disappear and start over at 67. You are allowed to write a new ending. My name is Evelyn Brooks, and this is the part of my life they never thought I'd tell out loud. This is the part where I say I chose me, and I lived. This is the part where I look straight into the camera and I tell you I did not go back. I will not go back. I found myself in Savannah with a porch swing, a lemon tree, a kitchen full of love, a circle of women who clap when I sing, and a granddaughter who still calls me Nana. That is enough. If you're still here with me, thank you for listening to all of it. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you felt my voice in your bones, do something for me and for yourself. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next woman who tells the truth. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because I love knowing how far our stories travel. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. And if nobody has told you today, I will. You deserve peace.